I think the big point of why now is we're at this massive inflection point where all you hear is about what AI can do and large language models built on top of data. But a lot of those models are only going to be as good as the quality of data that they're pulling from, the currency, accuracy, consistency. Is it normalized? Is it GDPR and data protection compliant? All these things really matter almost more than ever, or you can get into a very, very scary situation. So, we're going to talk about sort of the transparency and try to provide some tips. So I think to kind of do this, and you see how this conversation goes, is we're going to kind of take this with a series of questions. And those questions are around, all right, so you're making your first entree, you're having your first meeting with a vendor. And I guess I'll sort of start with John here is, where does that conversation normally begin when you get an inbound call? Somebody says, I need to talk to you, because there's usually something they want. But this is the first point things can go off the rails. How do you kind of handle that?
It's funny because it's usually the part that really starts off and it always goes off the rails, because typically when they're contacting a data provider, right, and I guess that's the first thing we should accomplish, is it data or is it data, right? But as they're calling a data provider, they're comparing other providers, right? And so they want to know how smart you are, right? How much do you have? What's your volume? And they typically ask questions like, hey, I'm looking for, how many companies do you have in Utah, right? That fit this revenue, that fit this, the revenue and employee section, right? They're doing a selection criteria and just judging a provider by what their volume is, which is not the best way to start a conversation or the way to judge your data provider, right? And I always try to change that conversation to say, hey, what are you trying to accomplish? What are your goals for this campaign? What are you looking at? Like, I had a conversation this morning, right? And they said, hey, what is Australia? How many companies do you have in Australia? Well, companies in Australia, that's a wide realm. It is more of, what are your goals? Are you running a campaign? Are you trying to do a data cleanse, clean your data? Are you trying to, do hygiene of what you currently have? And it's trying to change the conversation to what your goals are and what you're trying to accomplish. And once you can start off there, I think it goes back to that very first topic that you brought, and that's transparency, right? So if you can be transparent on what you're trying to accomplish, it allows the data provider to be transparent of how we can help you get there and accomplish your goals. Pat, I know you've seen a bunch, right? So
yeah, and it's I always like to start with the end, right? One of the things I like to say is, talk to your data provider about not only what you're trying to accomplish, but how is it going to be measured, right? What is your internal measurement for success? And let that data provider make recommendations based upon what they know, with years and years of experience and working in data and with their own product, on what to use, how to use it to help you achieve that measurement of success, right? Is it going to be simply a response rate? Is it going to be a data hygiene metric? Is it going to be improvement of CRM data quality? There's a lot of different things beyond what's your count in Australia or Utah. I think if you start with your goals and how that goal will be measured, you'll find that most of your conversations with your data providers will end with better outcomes.
Absolutely. Completely agree.
Yeah, so I think it's sort of safe to say that don't necessarily accept if someone says to you, I need to go to get as many as possible. It may not be volume.